The only way I listen to your music is if you tied me up at gunpoint and you forced me to.
And don't play it here again or you're fired.
What's going on?
I think we have a new neighbor.
Hi, gents. How are you doing? Nice to speak to you.
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for coming on.
Great. So, congratulations on the movie. And I mean, I know you've got the world premiere coming very soon. Josh, I know that you've been reading some of the reviews already. You're posting a few on Instagram. So, what are your kind of hopes and fears going into the world premiere tonight?
Hey, you know, the motto of the movie is not everyone will get it, but the right ones will. And I think, you know, I think because of that, this movie specifically, like, is kind of impervious to criticism, because that's what the movie is about, is like not worrying about the haters, not worrying about those internal voices that are critiquing you, and just, you know, putting your heart out there, making stuff, and you know, letting people enjoy it.
It's true. We made the world's first bulletproof movie.
Yeah, it's
And this is
basically the best
counting
movie.
Bulletproof Monk.
Yeah, that's true. So
No, I mean, seriously, I mean, I know you're gonna have a whale of a time, because I watched it on my small iPad, and I was like, as soon as the credits came on, I was like, I need to see this on the big screen with a huge a huge audience. I'm in that movie. It just feels like it was meant for that.
Because like, you know, we're doing Alamo Drafthouse screenings, and we got the screening tonight. I just hope people see it with the crowd, because like comedies, like that's when they're better, when you see it with an audience and you hear some people laughing. It's like laughing is infectious, and it's you know, and it's involuntary. And so when you hear a room for it, I just hope people laugh, you know.
I feel like it's engineered for that. There's so many moments that I think are just they're just funny or surprising or weird, or, you know, maybe even heartwarming, you know. But I feel like it's a real, it's a movie that grabs the audience and like shakes them around. Like
Definitely. I mean, I was reading a few of the reviews before, and I think, unfortunately, there's this elevated horror has kind of taken over at the moment, no? And I think people kind of expect more from horror.
Mm-hmm.
So this film kind of felt like it was kind of going away from that, going against the grain. Now, was that something that you intentionally kind of went for, to take it back to kind of like the 80s?
I mean, kind of like I've been joking that, like, instead of A24, I want to make B23. You know, I mean, I'm a huge like trauma fan. Like I'm a fan of like the concept of trauma, maybe not exactly their movies, but that attitude. And right in line with that is, like, you know, Freaked, and you know, Mad Magazine, or, you know, the granny scenes in Bill and Ted 2, or, you know, Ernest Scared Stupid, or I don't know, like I love that type of texture, and then to combine it with what I think is smart comedic writing, you know, that's the sweet spot for me.
Well, that stuff is so tricky.
I don't think that it's a us or them situation, though. I think that there's always been, I mean, you know, in the 70s, when you had incredibly crazy gonzo Mel Brooks movies, you also had The Exorcist. I think if somebody went to see Young Frankenstein and they were expecting The Exorcist, they may not have liked it very much. I think that similarly, if someone is expecting a kind of more grounded, straight horror movie, and they walk into a gonzo comedy with horror elements, it may not be what they're expecting. But I certainly think we live in a world that can
about generational trauma. You know?
I think, I think we can accommodate many types of movies, and I think the film is actually going to work great for fans of this genre.
No, definitely. It took me right back to my teens, you know, those 80s movies. I mean, You're Freaked, for example, was one of the main ones, Street Trash. And then also it kind of, in a weird, I don't know if it was a coincidence or not, but it almost felt like it could have been kind of a horror movie set in the universe of Bill and Ted. Was that completely by coincidence?
Not
intentionally. How that works.
I think it's just that thing of, like, you know, it's the vibe. It's that vibe that, like, you know, what Josh and I liked about the Bill and Ted movies and Freaked, and it's just this you know, it's like it's the real world, but it's just slightly elevated. It's not, you know, it's not crazy, but it's just this like kind of, you know, a heightened reality that kind of is just fun.
I mean, one movie.
So if Death could show up, that'd be great in the sequel.
One movie that Jonah introduced me to is this movie, The Dark Backward, Adam Rifkin, and that's it's a movie that's very much in that vein of like hyper stylized, just is like its own weird quirky universe.
Yeah.
That,
Like
that
one of
was,
the
that was
things
kind
that
of the
Josh
goal.
and I talked about a bit was like, oh, like it's a weird movie in a weird universe, but everyone in it is in the same movie. Like there's no
Yeah.
one outside of like, no one's like acting like it's like seems out of place. But like that's what we kind of wanted to do with this thing. It's just like everyone believes in this world, you know.
And so you have stuff like, you know, the paramedic realizing that Eleanor like Dawn Dimension, like just that everyone kind of likes prog rock in the world. Like there's just little weird things like that just tickle me, you know, like.
Uh-huh. So I mean, obviously, kind of like the running line throughout is the fact that Jonah's character, he's trying to find himself, and he kind of thinks that what's going on in the world now isn't really. Maybe he thinks that his music it's kind of, even though it sounds like it's from the past, he kind of feels like it's ahead of his time now.
Yeah.
So did you kind of feel, all three of you, did you feel that you kind of wanted to tap into your kind of inner frustrated artist in this when you were kind of before the film and actually when you were on set as well?
Yeah, I mean the movie is kind of also about making a movie. You know, it's just this thing where it's like it's not going to save the world, it's not going to save lives. But to make sure you make it as good as you can, you have to momentarily act like it will save lives and save the world. And and it really ends up like skewing your take on everyday tasks and responsibilities.
Yeah, it's also using it's which a lot of these sort of apartment Fantasia movies do, going all the way back to like The Lodger and Stranger on the Third Floor, old stuff. Um, the apartment becomes kind of a metaphor for the end of the line for a group of people, right? It's almost like a piece of theater, like the Iceman Cometh or something, where you've got all these characters at the kind of at the end point of wherever they are for whatever reason, that all have come together. And that's what this movie is. That's why the ensemble works. So, I think we all tapped into that when we made this. That was kind of the fun undercurrent, was like the apartment is a sort of a symbol of all of humanity at the end on some level. And that's great for comedy and practical effects and the sort of having fun with that as opposed to a straight piece of theater. And I think we all had that. All the actors had that in their mind for sure. Art department, obviously Josh was aware, but they created the thing. But I think that all of us who were working on it in the cast were very mindful of that. And that's kind of how the whole ensemble worked together.
Uh-huh. Speaking of the ensemble, I mean, your character specifically, Vlad, is just out of this world, amazing. I mean, you're unrecognizable. How much of Vlad was in the script? Because I mean, obviously you got to create the creature, the effect, and then you got to create his mannerisms and the way he speaks and everything. How much of that was on paper, and how much of that was you, Josh, and how much was that you, Alex?
The script is just a blueprint, man. No, I'm just kidding. I'm an actor. I follow the text, right? So I 100% look at the script, talk to Josh, talk to Gabe Bartalos, talk to Jonah, like our whole sort of hive mind all the way through prep. Once I've collected all this data of like what Josh wants and what Gabe's going to make it look like, and how Jonah's going to be Will, then I just take that away and I build the character in terms of his voice and his backstory and the way he moves, things like that. It's a lot of fun for an actor. I like physical work, but I'm 100% following the dictates of the world and the text, and I knew that I was sort of creating things that I thought would work well with the words. Like I thought he made sense as a Romanian character for a number of reasons, but an immigrant who had come from a war-torn kind of background, sort of thing. But I knew that kind of accent would work well with the dialogue. If the dialogue had been written that way, I wouldn't have done it that way. I would have come at it differently.
Mm-hmm. But aside from that, I mean, the effects were so. I mean, there's one specific scene. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but there's one scene when you are I think there's three characters kind of lying on the floor, just kind of looking to each other, and you don't really say much there, but you managed to say so much with just your eyes. So I mean, the prosthetics were amazing that they actually allowed you to kind of express yourself just with your eyes, no?
Yeah, I noticed that too, Alex. Like it's like you do so much with your eyes, and like in a lot of parts, but that scene in particular, I thought that was great.
Thanks. You kind of have to. I mean, it's the most something that Bill Corso and I, who did the paint and the application, and Bill worked with me on everything going back to Lost Boys and Freaked and Bill and Ted, and we just talked about the need for animation like to have full facial flexibility. Gabe was very concerned about that, you know, because he knew he was building something very big, but he also knew I had to be able to express myself. So the way the appliances were built gave me full expression. And then I just have to remember to use my face a lot. Like that's sort of the key to prosthetics work. If you don't do anything, sort of like joke Josh makes about see me thinking I was unapproachable, because if I didn't do anything, I just turned into this stone, this kind of like dark, grim stuff. You become dead. You really are just like a head on a pike, right? So you kind of have to constantly be alive under those things to keep them alive.
It was fun too working with. One thing I just want to throw in is that Gabe had this great kind of edict about like silhouettes. This like we wanted to try and create each character so that if you just saw the silhouette of the character, you'd know who it is. And so we put a lot of time into thinking about, you know, like what is Augie gonna look like? Like what is Philip,
Eleanor, and
Eleanor, you know, and so it's like we really wanted to have that a diverse kind of rogues gallery of, you know, all the different characters having really distinct looks, which I think we achieved. I think it's a really, you know, you look at the poster and it's just like it's just such a great ensemble, you know.
Absolutely. And one character that we can't not talk about, of course, is the prog rock music, who he's also actually one of your actors, is one of the musicians there. How did you decide on the specific type of music, and how did you kind of go back and forth to just kind of create this kind of music that you wanted to suit the film perfectly?
So in an earlier draft of the script, William's character was a cartoonist. Like I wanted him to have something that he was trying to do. And when we brought on one of the writers, Mike Benner, and when Jonah was on board, he was like, dude, you know, Jonah's a great musician. Like, why not make him a musician? And so that really helped us pinpoint, you know, it's like, okay, I really wanted him to have a goal that even if he achieved it, like who would care? Nobody would, you know, like being the best prog rock musician, you know, it's just such a futile thing. It just made me laugh. And also like, as a kid, like I inherited an uncle's box of records, and in it was like King Crimson and a lot of Zappa and like The Who's Tommy, which I don't even know if it's prog, but it's pretty proggy. And so I was just always like into this nerdy stuff when nobody else was. So I don't know. It just it seemed like it fit.
Was to give me the wrap in a couple of minutes. So just to finish off, then obviously you've got this is coming out. You don't know how people are going to react. I imagine they're going to love it. But I mean, if it does take off, could you imagine maybe a sequel or maybe a Vlad spin-off or something like that? Because that or even a series of some type, because it kind of does feel almost like a sitcom in many ways.
Yeah, it's funny. Some people like who like we showed like early cut to, like a couple friends were like, they're like, this feels like it could be a show. Like, you know,
exactly,
just William trying to deal with, you know, this like this you know,
it's a lot closer to reality than Melrose Place. I'll tell you that. If you live in LA.
But I'm not sure Alex could take all the sitting down with the 3-4 hours of makeup every week now for a new episode. No.
Vlad, if we did it as a series, Vlad would be completely CGI. We'd take out all of the heart and soul of the movie and just do it so it was streamlined enough to make money.
Exactly. Yeah, whoever did Jabba the Hutt in the Just make sure that nobody's looking in the right eye line. Yeah. That's very important to me.
Well, listen, thanks so much for speaking to you guys. I really appreciate it. I wish you the best of luck with the premiere tonight, and the best of luck when it comes out on Shudder. And I hope to speak to you again sometime soon.
Great, thank you so much.
All right, take care of yourselves.
Yeah.
Cheers then. Bye now.
You're a loser and you're gonna die a loser.
Now that was rock and roll.
Stop. Just be cool. And don't murder anyone else.